Okay, welcome to the stream. Lean into your screen because I want to show you some video of orcas taking a chunk out of a catamaran.
Arrancó el segundo. We lost both rudders.
We lost both rudders. Now, that wasn't an isolated incident. In the last year, for instance, there have been 200 known confrontations between boats and orcas, but nobody knows quite why. But we have a panel of experts who are going to share their excellent theories with us today. So to talk about all things orca from Friday Harbor in the US state of Washington, Debora, Giles, Science and Research Director for the organisation Wild Orca, also known as Giles. From Reykjavik Harbor, Paul Watson, a marine wildlife conservation activist and the founder of the Captain Paul Watson Foundation. And in Lagos, Portugal, Artur, a professional skipper. I know you are going to have questions, audience watching on YouTube. Comment section is live. Have at it. Looking forward to you doing that. First of all, Giles and Paul and Artur, I'm going to do a little cheat sheet about orcas. Add one more fact when I finish that you know about orcas that most people do not know. So let's start with their name and what they're commonly known as. Killer whales, but they're actually the largest family of the dolphin family, the largest member of the dolphin family. They can live a really long time, up to 90 years old, and their brain, I'm intimidated now, 5 times larger than a human being's brain. Giles, one more fact that will surprise our audience around the world about orcas.
They're incredibly socially bonded with their family members.
And Paul, something else.
Well, they're the most powerful predator on the planet, and yet they've never ever attacked or injured a human being in the wild.
Ah, so interesting. In the wild, that's really important there. And Artur, something that you've learned about orcas.
They are very intelligent, smart animals. They work in groups. They can hunt together, even with another kind of fishes in some regions of the world. They have different behaviors in different parts of the world. That's what I know about orcas. And they are very friendly with humans, that's for sure.
So as these number of confrontations between boats and yachts and orcas have gone up, the general public, or maybe even the sailing public, have called them attacks. But earlier we spoke to Monica Gonzalez, and she explained why we shouldn't call them attacks, why we should call them something else. This is what she told us.
We have a subpopulation about 35 individuals of Iberian orcas. In this population, only 15 interact with boats. In these 15, 2 are adults and the rest are juveniles. Since 2020, the subpopulation of Iberian orcas started to interact with boats. We always use the word interaction because attack is just for humans. It's when you are doing something trying to hurt or to damage somebody. It's not the case of our subpopulation. So we always use the word interaction.
Artur, you've experienced an orca interaction. It was late at night. We have the video. The video is super disturbing. Tell us first what we're about to see, because it looks like the beginning of a horror movie just because it's so dark and you're not sure what's going on. What happened?
Exactly. It was scary at the first minute. Very, very scary. At the first touch, I thought it was a wooden piece or a ship pallet because it was a bump, not too strong. Okay, and I was a bit tired at that time because at 4 o'clock in the morning was my turn to go sleep. And I felt that on the boat. And I came out, I have my crew on the watch, and I asked her what's happened, and she said I didn't touch anything. And I was scared about that, really, really, really scared about that, because I was realizing, assuming that was an orc interaction. you know, and the boat is not mine. I'm delivering the boat.
Oh my goodness.
Responsible.
Yeah. It's not your boat. We showed the video, but I'm going to stop talking, Artur, so that we can actually hear the sound, because the sound is quite something. Let's play that video again with the sound on. Giles, what do you think was happening there? Because there are so many theories as to why orcas are being attracted to boats, and more of them.
Yeah, so I mean, I can only imagine how terrifying that must be, especially in the middle of the night when you don't have any visual on what's really happening. But from my experience with killer whales, and from what I understand is happening in Spain and Portugal, it really truly seems to me that these whales are just interested in the bottom part of the boat, things that protrude from the boat, the rudder or keel, which sticks out down into the water column. And the video that I saw that was taken of this sailing boat that was in a race really showed these whales rubbing their head, one whale rubbing his head against this protruding bit. And, you know, these are incredibly intelligent, tactile animals that interact regularly with things in their environment. And that's what it looks like to me.
Paul, I was trying to find some video of you in the 1970s going on a ride with an orca. It was kind of accidental, but we don't have the video. Can you explain what happened and describe that experience for us, please?
Well, that was during the first Greenpeace campaign to protect whales in the Pacific, and I found myself in the Straits of Bella with an oncoming pod of orcas, and three of us, for some strange reason, decided to go into the water in front of them as they were coming towards us. And when only your head is out of the water and you see a pod of orcas coming from you, especially back then, it was very intimidating. And then they all dove and disappeared, and that's even more intimidating. And suddenly they rose up alongside of us, and I was able to grab the dorsal of one of them and just went along with them for about 100 meters until I was flicked off in its tail. But what struck me at the time was, here is the most powerful predator on the planet. You don't go up to a lion and pet it in the Serengeti, but this predator allowed me to ride along with it, and that to me expresses that I think they understand what we are. They understand how intelligent we are and how dangerous we are, and I think they want to live in coexistence with us. That's what I believe, and that's why I don't think they've ever attacked people in the wild.
That's so interesting. I'm going to bring in Liz Sanderman here. There is a theory about why more orcas are confronting boats, and it's known as the White Gladys theory, and that's because an orca called White Gladys had a number of confrontations with boats, and they were feeling that maybe she was upset, she was pregnant, she was maybe looking after her calf. That is one theory. Here is Liz talking about the idea of orcas maybe extracting revenge. Liz is having none of that. Let's have a look.
These orcas have been around these waters for many, many years. Is it an adrenaline rush to the animals? I certainly don't think it's revenge. These are very, very powerful animals. And if they wanted to do some serious damage, they can.
All right. They could kill us if they wanted to, but they don't. So, Artur, what are they doing around boats?
With my experience, I learned they are not attacking. They don't want to damage the boat even. Because the rudder, it's the most sensible part. It's a very weak part of the boat. It's like a surfboard. Some rudders are very weak. It's foam and resin. They are not attacking. Definitely not. It's they are defending their hunting area. They are playing with boats because orca play with boats. It's normal. It's happened before. I think it's something like that.
Paul, what is your theory as to why orcas are now gathering around boats, and it's happening in Spain, in Portugal, in a number of different places? It's not just one pod. I'm going to share your theory with Paul, because I feel Paul's got a slightly different theory. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I would like to think that they're sending us a message. I would like to think that they're expressing their anger, but I really think it's coming down to a play, it's a learning thing. They've learned how to do this, and they pass that on to other orcas. And I don't think there's any animosity there. I mean, premeditated revenge, that's a human characteristic. There's no evidence that exists with orcas. So I think it's really a matter of play.
So when you said premeditated revenge, Giles, you started to smile, but orcas' brains are way bigger than our brains. Why would revenge not be a thought that would go through their giant brain?
Well, I think we've touched on it a couple times coming from different perspectives. But it's ultimately the same concept that these are incredibly intelligent animals. Their brains are highly developed. They have portions of their brains that are bigger than ours. These are parts of their brains that have to do with memory and emotion and language. And yet, through all of the things that these animals around the world in different populations have had to deal with, like being corralled multiple times, netted up, and having, watching their family members being stolen from the family, loaded onto a truck and driven away, never to be seen again. In some cases with the southern resident fish-eating killer whales that I study up here in Washington State, these are animals that saw as many as 11 or more family members killed in the process of being removed for the captive industry. These are animals that were killed, slit open, filled with concrete and rocks to try and sink them. These are animals that, again, socially bonded for their entire lives. They stayed with their mother, both males and females, and yet they've never turned on humans. They've never come after humans in a negative way. And so if any population of killer whales was, going to attack humans, I would think that it would be the southern residents right here in Washington State. It has been said already, Liz said it, these whales are capable of taking down several thousand-pound stellar sea lion. If they wanted to harm people, they could. And yet, with these cases in the Strait of Gibraltar, when the boat becomes incapacitated, as I understand it, the whales lose interest. And so again, that lends to this whole idea that the whales are there they're getting something positive out of they're enjoying their experience, but not to the point where they're trying to harm humans.
I'm going to bring in another example of one of these orca encounters, and this one comes from Jelmer van Beek. This was just in early to mid-June, and Jelmer was taking part in a yachting race, and then this is what happened. Let's have a look.
Three orcas came at us, straight at us, and they started hitting the rudder. Impressive to see the orcas, first of all. Beautiful animal, but also a dangerous moment for us in the team. The team reacted really well. We took down the sails and slowed down the boat as quick as possible. And luckily, after a few attacks, they went away. It's a scary moment.
Paul, as the number of these incidences go up, what does this mean for the orca population and their safety?
I hope that we don't take revenge on them for doing this. We have to remember you can insure a boat, but you can't replace an orca. And as their numbers are being diminished because of shortages of food, because of pollution, and because of many other factors, we have to keep in mind that we could lose these animals. We could lose them completely. We can always rebuild a boat, but we cannot replace them if they disappear.
Artur, go ahead. What are you thinking?
Exactly. I agree 200% with Mr. Paul. And they are not attacking. They don't want to damage that much the boat. When they damage the boat, usually they stop. No, it's not a revenge. It's not an attack. Maybe they are defending their hunting place because the place where they're attacking, it's where we have a lot of tunas here and a lot of industrial fishing of tunas. I think can be the cause, because they will not, if it's a play, they will not break the boat. They will bring you the rudder back and will not break the other rudder from the catamaran. That's what I believe. It's not neither a play exactly, because if it was a play, they will not break the second rudder in a catamaran. I think they are defending, they are hunting, area, you know, and they don't want to damage the boat. They touch the boat gentle, the rudder, it's very sensible. If you hold the rudder, they can bite. That's my opinion. My experience. I had three interactions at the same day. I have two
Artur,
interactions at
three.
night.
What were you doing that you got three?
Yes. I was delivering a boat, okay?
Yes.
So my first interaction was at 4:30 in the morning in front of Scenes, 10 miles from Scenes. And then I stopped the boat at the same minute. I stopped the boat and I started observing the orcas. And then when they stopped, after 5 minutes later, they stopped. And then I put reverse heading to Scenes Port. And they come behind me, and they hit me again 30 minutes later when I was running away. And that was what damaged my rudder, the shaft, because I was running away.
Sure. Anae is a North Atlantic killer whale researcher, and she has been watching the growing number of confrontations, the growing interest from the public, and she has some concerns. Here she is.
Still don't really know why these happened, but the involvement of juveniles suggests playful behavior. We know that killer whales are very intelligent and social creatures. They can transfer their culture and their knowledge among the population. We've seen that being done many, many times in the past. So as a researcher, my concern lies with how the public views these animals. We know that this population is endangered and they need our help. And the last thing they need is to be seen as villains.
Giles, what is fascinating is that orcas have not become the villains in this story. They've become the heroes. People are memeing them. They've become so much bigger than what is actually happening. What do you make of that way of actually understanding what is going on?
It seems to me that people are starting to become aware of just how detrimental our own actions are to the natural world. Pretty much everything that's occurring that's threatening this population of killer whales that we're talking about in Europe, as well as the population of killer whales that occur here in Washington State, all of the threats facing these animals that are causing them to lose their population, decline in population, and really teeter on the brink of extinction. All of the threats are essentially our fault. We've created these threats, whether it be vessel presence and associated noise, lack of prey, removing prey from the marine realm, so limiting the amount of prey that these animals have access to, toxicants in the marine realm, so man-made chemicals that are making their way up the food chain and biomagnifying up the food chain and having impacts on these animals. So those are just three of the threats that we're causing to the marine realm. And I think that that's what people are starting to really get a sense of in different populations of animals around the world. And in a lot of ways, I can't help but root for them. But I do have a deep concern that people will, there is an economic factor here. And for some folks, that's more important than the natural world. And I really hope that we start to have a conversation about what we can do to minimize these interactions to the point where, maybe the fad will fade. The animals will lose interest in this area and in sailboats, in rudders, and kind of move on to something that's less economically devastating for the people.
I really think that's the cause.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at...
We shouldn't forget that we have killed hundreds and hundreds of them, enslaved them, put them into captivity for our amusement. I mean, it wasn't too long ago the United States Navy off of Iceland was machine gunning orcas because the fishermen were complaining about them. And so we've come a long way in our understanding of what orcas are, but we should never lose the sight of the fact that if we lose the orcas, we lose them forever. And as I said before, you can always replace the rudder on a boat, but you can't replace the orcas.
Paul, Anna May is watching right now, and she has this suggestion. You can tell us if it's a realistic one. She says, could you put a sonar controller on the orcas so they don't go where the boats are? Is that a reasonable thing to do? Is that possible?
I think it's possible that you could put noises from the boat that might deter them. It's pretty hard to deter an orca. You could use orca sounds to deter another whale, perhaps, but it might be. I think maybe playing really punk rock music might do it. I don't know, but you know, or heavy metal or something like that. Something that they'll find annoying.
That might deter them. All right. Kareem Salad said, "Simple acoustic barrier deterrent that will stop them from attacking boats, but it needs to be non-lethal." And yes, nature is fighting back. Two thoughts there. Non-lethal deterrent. Giles, what would be a non-lethal deterrent for the orcas so they stay away from boats?
Well, one of the things that is used in cases where, for example, there might be an oil spill and you're trying to deter marine mammals from an area, it has been used around the world to use something called an oyakomi pipe, which is a 3-inch diameter steel pipe, 8 foot long, hung from the side of a boat and banged on with something like a hammer. Those have been effective. Sadly, you know, those are actually what's used in the Taiji dolphin drives, and those are noises that can push animals away from areas or into areas in the case of the Taiji dolphin drives. So things like that, it's possible to you know, possibly slowly ramp up so that they can move out of the way and not be harmed. Possibly something like sonar that in some cases has killed whales, you know, caused them to surface very quickly and get the bends in the case of beaked whales. Something like that might be good. You know, I think that those, you know, I did see one video of a boat where the people were clearly banging on the side of the boat. I do believe it was the catamaran that was part of the race, where they shut their motor down and they started, you know, they stopped moving forward and started banging on the side of the boat. And I think that ended up possibly helping the situation.
Okay, Giles, let me just pause for
a lot of those things are not going to be lethal.
Oh, right. Okay, so let me just pause for a moment because I want to bring in Vladimir. Vladimir has experienced orca confrontations and he wasn't sure what advice to follow. Artur, have a listen to what he says, and then you can maybe just wrap us up with what you would do now that you've had 3 experiences of orca confrontations. Here's Vladimir first of all.
On the internet, very confusing, to be honest, even from official organizations. Even today we had information from one official saying turn on the engine, it will detract orcas, and others said turn off the engine, not to attract their attention. And then some officials say, or not officials, stay closer to shipping lanes where it's busier and deeper, and others say stay where it's shallower. So advice is very confusing and not helpful at all.
Artur, just very briefly, what are we doing?
Exactly. We go shallow. We go shallow. And what he said about the cheap lines is, I did Gibraltar more than 6 times after this started happen. Okay, with sailboats, with family on board, and catamarans. So I'm doing this job. I did this course route several times in safety. You know, I can do this job. I can cross through the red zone, not through the red zone, but I go shallow. I hug the coast. I show the coast to the people. I say, look, it's beautiful. This is sailing. You want to go and you want to see the places also. But some sailors, some boat owners, sometimes they, no, I want to go in the middle. No, come on, enjoy. We are having a problem. We have a solution, a temporary solution.
All right. Paul, I've got I've got 10 seconds left. Okay. What are you going to say in that 10 seconds? Bring us home.
The best deterrent is... the best deterrent is to stop overfishing the ocean, stop starving these orcas. So, they need a food supply. We're taking it away from them, and that's going to cause serious problems. We've got to stop diminishing fish populations in the ocean by overfishing.
Thank you, Artur. Thank you, Giles. Thank you, viewers, for your contributions as well. I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.